Right, getting started on my cider for 2016. Just get everything prepared. Have all my apples washed, cleaned, and cut where necessary. A lot of them were rotten, so I just cut out the bad bits. So I have a good quantity of apples. By weight, I don't know really how much by weight, but I have enough essentially to fill 1.5 times those black bins, and that should yield hopefully about 25 litres of juice. No, some wastage or whatever, but we can live with that. So apples ready to go. The scratter is also ready to go. Press ready to go. And yeah, so let's get started. So just pretty much emptied one bucket of apples and have the output in the secondary bucket underneath, collecting obviously the broken bits of apples of the last batch here from that first bucket, but I said I'd give you an idea of what's going on. I'll just rearrange this here. So basically cut up some of them because they were actually so big. The scratter wasn't catching them properly when I was running them through. So lid on, trusty Bosch drill onto the connection, and bear with me now, I'll try and get the camera. So basically the drill is running, chopping up the apples, and you can see them coming out the bottom. Probably better this angle. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like from the top. Oh, man down. So that's essentially it. You got to run through all these buckets, and obviously once I mean you got some big bits in there, but you know that's not a major issue. They should probably get caught in the press anyway, so you'll probably get some juice from those. But essentially we'll run through all these buckets, and hopefully I'll have a pretty close to full black bin where we'll then begin the pressing process. Okay, so all the apples have now been broken up or scratted into pretty much fill the entire bucket, which is fantastic. Very little waste. There are some larger bits in here, like this guy here, small things like that, but I'm not going to sweat it. There should be enough of the small bits to get me in my 25 litres. So I've set up my press with the bucket sanitised. Even though I'll be adding Camden tablets to the juice anyway afterwards to kind of kill the external yeast, so I'm not too fussy about a bit of external yeast or molds or bacteria, as long as it's not crazy, and it's pretty clean. I washed it, and as I said, I used some Star San on it, just to make sure that everything's good. Press is set up. Got a bottleneck jack, or a bottle jack I should say, this time around, whereas I used the usual regular kind of old school car jacks last day, which took a bit of time. Ball jack is a bit easier. 20 quid in your local car kind of auto parts. Press is set up. I have the first cheese in beneath these panels. Like, it's pretty, the one I've done up is pretty, I don't know, I've probably gone overkill on the amount of wood in the tray and everything else. You know, if you stack multiple cheeses, that's probably easier, but I kind of just rolled with this setup here, and it seems to work pretty good. It just takes a little longer. Maybe next time around I might kind of devise a different plan, but for the time being it works. Okay, so I'll start pressing. Right, so I've done the first pump and the juice is starting to flow pretty nicely. I'll kind of do it in stages. I want to test. This is the first time I've used the bottle jack on this press, so I'm kind of just testing its limits at the moment. Plus I've got some hardwood, kind of a bit of scrap hardwood here, just to see how many pumps it'll take to get that to break, because I can't imagine I'll get away with using that for the whole thing, so I'll change that up. But as you can see, it's flowing nicely through the sieve and into the bucket below, collecting there in the tray. And as I said, so I'll give it another push. So there's my scrap bit of wood. Didn't last long at all. Not to worry, not to worry. But I'll continue with this until we have pretty much, hopefully, close to a full bucket. So here's the final quantity of juice that I managed to get. Not quite the full 25 litre bucket, but pretty close to it. I say 20 litres anyway, at least. So yeah, so I filtered it a couple of times and transferred it to another sanitized bucket. At the moment now I've added a few Camden tablets to kill off any of the wild yeast, so I can get it back to kind of ground zero. So I'll leave that for a couple of days, at which point I'll pitch the yeast, and hopefully we can kind of get some fermentation going. First step for fermentation. So all good day's work. Looking forward to the next step. So I have the fermentation process begun. About 3 days ago I put the yeast into the container of juice. I used Young's yeast, and it's a teaspoon of yeast per gallon of juice. So I have about 5 gallons, so that's about 5 teaspoons. And I also use some yeast nutrient as well. Can't really focus in on that, but yeah, you get the picture. And obviously for the first day or so there wasn't, for the first day I think, yeah, there was no action, but checked it last night, and as you can see we have active fermentation, quite frothy at the top, lots of lovely bubbles. I can get that kind of beery smell, for the want of a better term, but that's blipping away nicely. So I'll leave that for, it varies, but I think on the last brew that I did it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks. But I think that the rule of thumb is until it stops, till the fermentation stops. And might mention as well that I also took my specific gravity reading before I pitched the yeast, just to see what the alcohol content will end up being, and it was a reading of 1.047. so once that's finished, I'll test it regularly to check how the alcohol consumption in the yeast is getting on. So yeah, that's the most recent update for now. Okay, so about a week has passed, just over a week, and I've been watching the cider ferment. Excellent action over the second, third, fourth days. Started to slow down over the fifth, sixth, and subsequently seventh is the last day. Why I'm showing you the test jar at the moment is because I have actually just taken a sample to read the specific gravity. Now at the moment it's not quite accurate because I've taken a bit out of the top, but it's relatively close to what it should be anyway. Long story short, the original reading was 1.047 and the second reading was 1.008, so that gives me roughly an alcohol content at the moment of about 5.1 or 5.2%. I can't remember exactly. So basically I have gone as far as, apologies for the lighting and poor quality of the video, but I've taken my siphon out of my tube. This was full of that, obviously. I've siphoned it out into my demijohns, and I've got all the airlocks on. So these are 5-gallon demijohns. Sorry, beg your pardon, they are 5-litre demijohns. So you're roughly talking about 25 litres of cider. As you see, it's still bubbling away. Just caught a nice one there. So this will be the secondary stage of fermentation. So hopefully the remaining yeast will eat off the last of the sugar and probably get a little bit more alcohol, and the sediment inside in these will begin to settle. All in all, happy enough. Yeah, as you can see, they're still bubbling away, which is great. Just to give you an idea of what's inside in the bucket after I'd finished. I mean, you can see some of the residue from the, I think it's yeast, I'm not sure. So somebody will be able to correct me, but I believe that the what's known as at the end is the lees, which is all the yeast, or the byproduct of the yeast is floated to the bottom, so it's quite thick and gooey. Fun to play with. Obviously I left a bit of juice at the bottom of that. No need to siphon it all in, because you don't want to be left with too much cloudy or sediment in the bottom of your demijohns. So I'm going to leave these for about a month, or at least until the sediment has cleared and secondary fermentation has stopped. I'll take another reading then to see what the alcohol content is prior to bottling. At that point, obviously, I'll do some flavour enhancements. I'd back sweeten with some artificial sugars. Well, not necessarily artificial sugars, but basically the sugars like xylitol or stevia, which don't obviously allow for any more alcohol creation once the yeast gets at it. So you can get all the sweet but without the additional alcohol content. So yeah, so I'll check back in a couple of weeks to see how we're getting on. So it's been about 4/5 weeks since I put the cider into secondary fermentation. As you can see, it's clarified. It's pretty see-through as it is. You can kind of see at the bottom there where the sediment has settled. I've begun siphoning it out of the demijohns into the bucket again. From here, from this bucket, then I will back sweeten with xylitol. I have xylitol here. I will add it a little at a time just to get the sweetness right. For my palate, it's pretty much up to yourself how sweet you want it or not. Some people would like it very dry and wouldn't add anything, but personally I will add some of this. Obviously I've sanitized everything pretty heavily prior to including, you know, the siphon. I have some kind of tools here that I'm going to use to test it in the test jar. I'll be doing a reading just to see what the final alcohol content is as well, which I will show you later on. Apologies for the condition of my brew room, but it's essentially a shed out in my garden. But it does what it's meant to. It keeps everything kind of at a decent regular temperature. Of my thermometer there. So I'll continue siphoning the demijohns into the barrel, and then I'll start adding my xylitol, after which I will add some brown sugar, which I also have here. I got some regular sugar as well, just in case I run out of brown. That's going to add the bubbles to the final batch, and depending on I'll do some tests. Maybe, like, it's November now, I'm gonna wait until Christmas to open the first bottle, so hopefully it'll be done within the month, so I can have a final taste, or at least have a first taste of some of the cider for Christmas, which would be nice. But I will show you that video soon enough, once I finish siphoning it all out of these demijohns. So I have finished bottling, well, nearly finished. I have a few more smaller bottles on the ground that I need to cap, my trusty capper here and some bottle caps, but I have pretty much finished the bottling of all of my cider for this year. Had a taste after sweetening, before adding sugar, just after the xylitol, and it tastes pretty good. It's better than the last batch I made. A little raw, for the want of a better expression, but hopefully that'll mature over the next few months. The longer I leave it, the better it should taste. But even as it is, it's drinkable. No fizz. Had a couple of sneaky glugs there, and yeah, definitely drinkable. So like I said, a few more bottles to finish, and that should be me. As you can see, all the empty bottles, and I've left a kind of a good bit at the bottom of each demijohn, because I didn't want to suck back up the sediment, or the lees as it's known in the trade. So I've left that, so hopefully when, excuse me, again, apologies for my terrible camera work, but hopefully that should mean once these guys clarify or mature, they'll clarify even further. But because I've only taken the best of the cider from the demijohns, there shouldn't be that much sediment at the bottom of these guys, but there will always be some, but hopefully there won't be that much. Yeah, so as far as the alcohol content goes, here's my test jar, and you probably can't make it out on the camera, it doesn't really matter. Essentially my starting gravity was 1.047, and my final gravity was 1.008, giving me, you can find the formula to calculate the ABV online. A bunch of websites do it. Simple enough calculation. But my final gravity was 1.008, giving me an alcohol content of about 5.2, I think, or 5.25, thereabouts. So exactly where I want it to be. Not I don't want it that much stronger, because you do get the taste of alcohol the stronger it is. So this is in and around what it should be, what store-bought cider is. So that's pretty much it from start to finish. I guess I might make a final video upon opening, just to show how fizzy they are in a couple of months. So I'll monitor these guys. Like I said, I have my thermometer in here to make sure that this room doesn't get too cold. We're in the middle of the Irish winter at the moment, so it's actually quite cold outside. But I have a radiator in here that I've set on timer, so to keep this at what would normally be room temperature. I have to double check what it is, but I think in and around, I think not, I won't even try, no, I'll have to check it. But just to make sure that these guys get the necessary temperature to start fizzing up, and we should be good to go. So hopefully these will be at least drinkable fizzy wise in about a month.